So where's all? Ready, guys? I'm calling the meeting to order of the Woodstock Zoning Board of Appeals. Jude Salato,
Joe Bellick, Martin Mills, Stephen Taub, Greg Goodroad.
so we have a quorum. Does anybody have any changes or additions to the meeting agenda? No, okay. So I move to accept the meeting minutes of 3/27/25 and 4/10/25. Do I have a second?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so the first case we have tonight is a public hearing, and it is, I'm gonna read the whole thing. It's ZBA case 2506. Application of Joe Fashka, is that, am I pronouncing that right? Okay. Nomad Capital Woodstock LLC is represented by Catherine Johnson of 54 Ohio Mountain Road, Woodstock, New York, 12495, for property located at 20 Country Club Lane, Woodstock, New York, 12498, a 6.48 acre parcel located within an R3 district for variances from the zoning law of the town of Woodstock, Article 9, non-conforming uses and non-complying buildings, Section 260-94A3, to allow change of non-conforming use. Article 4, area and bulk regulations, Section 260-16, Attachment 2, for 12 side yard variances, 12-foot side yard variance, I think that's probably, and 260-18, structure coverage for Section A, Section 260-46, residential cluster development, Section A, in order to construct 10 one-family houses, a lodge, and a pool. So before you come up, I just want to explain, if you're here for the public hearing, what usually happens is the applicant comes up, explains what they're doing. We have any questions, we ask them, and then we go to the public and you get a chance to speak. Okay? Okay, so would you like to come up and tell us what you're doing? You can come up with me. Just tell us your names and what you're going to do.
I'm Jeffrey Harden. And I'm a designer, and hopefully we'll be 10 little houses that'll go on the foundations that are existing there. Or 8 anyway, because 2 of them are still in pretty good order.
Okay.
And I'm Kate Johnson, representing Joe.
Okay.
I'm glad to be here tonight. Thank you all for taking the time. We've been very excited about this, and thank you to my neighbors for coming out. I live up the road from the property. I live on Ohio.
Okay.
So I wrote a letter in case I got too nervous and forgot something. I can read it to you guys.
Go ahead.
Glasses on.
We don't bite.
I told her that she'll board. She doesn't believe me.
Yeah.
So thank you for the opportunity to submit this letter in support of our area variance request for the property located at 20 Country Club Lane, Woodstock, New York. We're seeking approval to redevelop this long-sitting site into a small, thoughtfully designed residential community that both respects the character of the area and addresses local housing needs. The property has historically been home to a series of small cabins, first built in the 1940s. These structures are now in significant disrepair. Our plan is to rehabilitate and reuse the existing footprints and create 10 tiny homes, converting the property from its prior commercial use to a residential use. This change will result in a less intense, more appropriate use that aligns with the residential nature of the surrounding neighborhood. Our proposal is not only financially practical, given the investment we've already made in clearing the violations, which were extensive, and preserving the site, but it also represents the least environmentally disruptive option. Alternatives would require extensive demolition, clearing, grading, impacts we are specifically working to avoid. By retaining the existing structures and working largely within their footprints, we are minimizing the environmental disturbance and preserving the character of the land. Though we are requesting a variance, its actual impact is minimal, especially considering the long-standing layout of the property. We're not introducing new density beyond what has existed historically, and I believe we're at 10% of what's allowed. But rather improving and modernizing what is already there in a way that enhances the area. This project also addresses the important local need of housing affordability. These homes, by virtue of their size and shared maintenance structure, will be more affordable than traditional single-family residences. Our approach supports sustainable housing while respecting both the environment and the neighborhood. Furthermore, this proposal qualifies as a type 2 action under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, which affirms that it will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts. We are fully committed to working through all steps with the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation to ensure the project meets all necessary environmental and regulatory standards. While the need for this variance is partly shaped by the pre-existing layout and condition of the site, circumstances not of our making, we believe this proposal presents a balanced, community-minded solution. It revitalizes a blighted property, provides much-needed housing, and preserves the natural and residential character of the neighborhood. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Okay, thank you. Do you have anything to add?
Okay. I think this is fairly complete.
Okay, so, the board have questions?
Are you gonna be renting out each of the
No,
houses?
they would be for sale. It would be a single deed with an HOA, so shared maintenance, tiny houses. On our map, the smallest is about 600 square feet and they range to 1,200 square feet. The existing pool we were able to save. It had been left open for many years. We drained it, cleaned it, covered it, fenced it, so it would have a pool. The lodge, we were thinking to having a manager residence, so a job, somebody there to oversee the property, the workings, probably laundry. We're kind of working on
Security and so
that
forth, yeah.
design,
And the community space.
but not a public community space, so nothing commercial in nature whatsoever, but a little community. We had thought about a garden, some different ideas, maybe doing solar, some green roofs, carports, different things like that, and not extending. There's a wetland area if you look on the map, not extending to that or beyond that, so that would be left in place.
Is there a proposed site plan that we have
Yes.
to?
That was a long way of answering the rental
No.
question, I'm sorry.
It's complete.
There might be another one.
I think they're in the packets too. I should-
They are in the packet.
Did you, last time we were given packets, I'm sorry, did Michelle's going to do that?
What's the affordability aspect of it?
Well, they're small.
Other
So
than-
primarily, it's small in nature, which directly reflects the affordability. I can't say what the market will bear for them. But they certainly won't be what's standard for Woodstock right now.
What would be considered affordable housing in the literal sense, it would not be, it's only by the nature of its size.
Right,
That it could be.
but other than the size of the,
We have no plans of subsidizing.
Right.
Any kind of housing.
We had thought about a cluster development, but we can't afford to.
It's
do
not
it.
feasible.
It's too very, very expensive to privately finance.
but they're gonna be put on the market for sale, and whatever the market bears is what people are gonna pay for that.
Yes,
Total 9 houses?
9 cabins plus the apartment in the house, in the
What
lodge.
used to be the restaurant kind of bar area, the lodge portion of that.
Are these all a shared septic and well?
That is the plan, is to share a septic. We're not sure what the engineer would say about that, but it would either be everyone would have their own septic tank and a common absorption field. Or we would have a few common septic tanks and a common absorption field.
What's there now? For septic and what?
There's a well. And there's a well house and it is distributed to those places. We are one of our big concerns is what it takes to monitor that water, from the county, from a health point of view. And so if there's a way we can avoid that, perhaps by digging more wells, that would be a consideration, but
That's something
at the bottom, or the worst scenario would be, I guess, to use the water that's there, which isn't so bad. It's clean water, it's filtered, it's done well by the lodge and the commercial establishment that went before us.
The water usage in its former iteration would have been a lot less than people actually living on the property, right? Yes.
I don't know how their model worked. It's hard to imagine that a restaurant didn't use a lot of water
in the cabins, I had full bathrooms,
yeah.
some had kitchens.
Yeah. It's never occurred to me to be using more water, but it's possible.
Right,
I guess it would have to be looked at.
right.
But we'd be hiring an engineer,
Yeah.
would be the next step,
Yeah.
and the DEP, I
Yeah, we're
believe,
just seeing if
to-
this will float with you guys, so we think it's a good idea,
Right,
before we
Right.
put too much into the
gotcha,
things like that.
I understand. Anybody else have questions at this point?
I just want to confirm that all these structures are currently there and they're not adding any other structures.
No, there's one that is a little difficult. And that would be this one right here. And you'll see that I have an alternative location here, so if there's some way you would say, okay, well, that was 1,100 square feet, you can have 1,100 square feet there.
So this is
That
here
would be
now.
terrific. That is existing right there.
What is-
And that's also the closest to our border.
What is difficult about it?
What is difficult, access to it, parking, walking up to it, and it's also the most egregious. Intrusion on the setbacks of all of our places.
These look
So-
like they're pretty close to the
They're all,
property line.
they're all,
No,
I don't think anything is within 50 foot, up to the 50 foot marker is on.
so it says here that the property was acquired in May of 24. You said that they rectified all those violations?
Yes, but she gave me a really extensive list.
And the new owners had to address all of that.
And we did, it was intense, we took 18 garbage trucks of trash out, metal, chemical, old heaters, air conditioners, just, there were 30 mattresses. It was awful, there were people living in there too.
Oh,
It was awful.
It was really bad. I had the police going by every night. Because I was going up there alone and they were knocking off my locks on posted signs. So we did, the whole property got posted. Now the doors are, actually drilled into the frames. Because people were knocking off my locks, and the last time I brought the police up, it was kind of cool actually. They came in like, "What's up, PD?" They came in, that somebody had been in there, and but there was blood and things, so drilled the doors right into the frames. The power's been shut down. Posted signs, fence. The biggie was the pool. That
dangerous.
terrified me.
Yeah.
It was opened for years. So that just so it fenced, sealed, cleaned, all those things, mold issues too.
Sure.
It wasn't bad.
Okay, anybody, anything else? No. So I would like to encourage everybody to go do a site visit. So is there a gate that prevents us from doing that? Do you want us to make appointments with you? We can't go more than 2 at a time. But what's the access like right now?
There is a big gate, but I can pick it up. And it's all the posted bits, but I can pick it up, but I'd love to go
And we
with
can
you,
meet
because I have all
anytime.
the keys.
Okay.
For the things that aren't drilled, the 2 newer ones, I have keys for, those are okay. And I think the other ones are drilled, so I can have those in.
We don't have to go inside them. We just kind of need to see the site and what's there, what it looks
We
like.
encourage you. We'll
Yeah,
meet you there
please
anytime.
do,
Okay.
it's a pretty piece of property, I mean, if you got it, there's
I remember when it was the Pinecrest in the
I bet you
early
did.
eighties.
Everybody's got a story for this place.
Yeah.
And I've heard
So
rumors the Rolling Stones stayed there. So some of the history is good and some of my neighbors have shared with me, some of them not good.
Favors.
Okay, all right,
Can I-
so,
I'm sorry, can I just, so I'm clear, the owner of the property is who?
Joe Peshka, it's in an LLC, so Joe.
That he
the
owns?
property.
And your role is what?
I've been being his property manager, helping him put it all together as a local, helping him build his team, clear the violations.
Okay.
He doesn't live locally, so he asked me to represent him.
And you're the architect?
Yes.
Okay.
Where does the owner live?
okay, wait, so how this is gonna work is when the public speaks, you address us. And just to keep it, yeah. Okay, so if nobody, we might have more questions afterwards, but if nobody else has anything, Michelle, if you would read the contiguous neighbors, we'll let contiguous neighbors go first. If you hear your name, should they just go ahead and say you're here and you can come on up if you want to pull up a chair or whatever you're comfortable doing. So,
Paul and Roberta Van Wagner on 15 Old Wagon Road in Woodstock. Okay. Matthew Malos, sorry if I got that wrong, 105 East Broadway, New York. No. Vane Carlin and Martha Walker, 906 President Street in Brooklyn. Howard Rifkin on 41 Old Wagon Road. Joseph and Patricia Appel. I know Dr. Appel is in the house, so.
so would you guys like to speak?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to come up and pull up a chair if you want? Wait, I don't know if we could hear if it's.
Yeah, it's better
The
if you
mic
guys
is
come
gonna
closer
pick
to
you
the
up.
microphone.
Can you guys maybe shift over a bit and then if they want to share, they can.
I brought it to the board.
Yes,
I didn't bring a copy of it.
we have it in a folder in the case file. Would you like to read that, Ms. Appel?
Sure.
Okay. It's right there in the front of you.
I'm gonna let you.
At 29 Mill Street, we're going to share a 200-foot property line with the lodge. For lack of anything else to call it. We believe that it's an unreasonable request with regard to density and how it would change the nature of the neighborhood with traffic and lights and noise and the impact that it would have to the local environment for many reasons. Excuse my voice. The property is barely 6.5 acres, well below the acreage requirement for 10 residential buildings. And our biggest concern are sewage and water requirements for 10 new residences. Over the years, starting with the lodge through the Selena owners of the property, the septic systems failed, the sewage leaked onto our property repeatedly. I worked with Ellen Pichera and someone in her office and eventually had to contact the Board of Health. And they came and shut down the septic systems. And from what we were told, the part of the property that borders ours is just below, bedrock is just below the surface. So it really complicated trying to do adequate septic systems. Now, you said that, that there would be less usage of the property with these small houses. When it was originally the Pinecrest, they were small lodges. They were not as big as they are now. And there were 1 or 2 bathrooms per unit, and we had septic issues back then. additionally, if you put in wells for all of those residents, what's gonna happen to everyone else who has a well in the aquifer? We have no idea. So the septic was a big issue for us, and we have lived on property since 1980. We have a well and a septic system. We have learned how to navigate the fragile resources through dry seasons, droughts, storms, and the vagaries of a natural water table. I think the only, if you were going to grant any of these variances, I would think that the primary requirement would be to hook up to town water and sewage. I just think it's unreasonable to think that there could be a cluster of 10 homes in a residential neighborhood that only had intermittent use at most.
And the intermittent use was complicated by septic spills onto our property. And I would be very happy to accompany any of you who want to do a site visit and provide you with the details, because I've been an observer of this for 45 years. And I can tell you that my feeling is that it's preposterous to think that proper septic engineering can be done without a massive restructuring of the percolation capabilities of the terrain. I'm happy to walk with you. And I would appreciate the opportunity to do so.
We would have to get permission from them.
I can walk you on my property,
Okay,
which is borders 200 feet on your northern side.
so we have the site plan here, but, and there's a tax map here, but it doesn't have, can you just show us where your property is on here? Please.
So.
Do you want to speak from here?
Yeah.
I would say that this is easier.
Yeah. Or pardon me for the.
No, it's a little
Like
it's
familiarity.
disconcerting here.
um,
You turn around, right, thank you, Joe. Yeah,
Okay. This is, where's Mill Stream Road?
it's right here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, she's got. do you
Oh,
have-
here we go. Okay, so I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
This is our property here. This is the northern edge of my property. This is the southern edge of my
I
property.
see, okay.
Okay,
Mhm.
and this is the right of way between our property and Martha Walker and Jane Carlin. This is the property owned by James Cohen. And this is a 200-foot fenced border. And now, does that line up with this? Can you orient me
I think we're,
if you're here? Okay, so, we're here. Yeah. Oh, okay, of course. Yeah, this is the 2-story building. This is a 1-story building.
Yes.
There's a septic system here. There's a septic system here also.
I was just gonna ask you.
Both of these septic systems discharge foul effluent onto my property, which is here.
Mhm.
And the streams were considerable.
Yeah.
Considerable streams of foul smelling effluent that killed a line of forsythia that I planted here. And even with intermittent use of the property when it was the Woodstock Lodge, and subsequently when it was owned by Selena, that it was rarely heavily subscribed.
Right.
So that's where we're very fearful that with an increased density, that any septic problems could be mitigated, and we feel strongly that if there's any development, it should be contingent on the ability to connect to town water and sewer, as Patty said.
One other comment, you said you hope to use the buildings again to renovate them. For a couple of seasons, they were overrun with animals. I can't imagine that you could just clean a building like that out and then sell it as a house.
No, that's not happening.
So no, that's not it.
So then that means that there would be construction vehicles in and out of the property for a very long time, disrupting all of the people who live on Country Club Lane. It's a very small road. It's one thing to build one house, it's another thing to build 10 houses, even if they're small. You know, there are so many things to consider in this project. I don't think it can be considered quickly or easily. I have grave considerations about it. I think we both do. And for us personally, it's the sewage and the water. I mean, I can't imagine 10 new wells in our backyard. And what that would mean for us.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'd like to keep you letter.
Right, next neighbor.
James Cullen. 11841 G Norman Road in Belgrade. I don't know, Vermont, maybe? Tamara Ahorn, 290 Church Street, White Plains. Okay. Andrew Kosinik and Amy Albert, 19 Country Club Lane.
Hello.
Yeah.
And Country Gigs Inc. at 87 Lone Oak Drive, Centerport, New York. Alrighty then.
Okay, so anybody from the public would like to speak who's not a contiguous neighbor? Yes,
I have a question about, so I'm 2 properties up.
please come up
Oh.
and tell us your
I'm
name.
Roger Lazoff, I live
Okay.
in 30 Country Club Lane.
Okay,
So my question is it legal or feasible to hook up to the town water? 'Cause the last owner went through this whole rigmarole with us,
You
And-
never got hooked up.
it never happened.
Right.
And I'm just wondering if that's even possible, or if it's just a pipe dream, or is it something that they should pursue? So is it something that happens where a development like this can, where it is, can be hooked up to the town, or is it too far off the grid?
we don't know.
Who would know?
Would assume the school is connected.
The school, yes, but that's where it ends.
Right, so,
We go up to,
anything's
know-
feasible,
Yeah,
but how much is it gonna cost?
Yeah.
well, and the other thing is, I know when they were talking about affordable housing over on Mount View parking lot, they were talking about whether or not the town has the capacity. So I don't know, I don't have those answers, but
Right.
it'd certainly be something to investigate.
Yeah, so this is an important problem.
Yes,
to
yes.
Resolve, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes,
I'm Robin Sears. I live at 27 Country Club Lane. I've lived there for 45 years, and it's obviously seen the evolution of the Pinecrest Lodge. And when,
could you mind just coming a little
Sure.
closer, because that's where our microphone is.
okay, Michelle, you got me.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you.
When Selena acquired the property, they never submitted a site plan after the planning board required them to tie into septic and water. That was when that whole project ended, just for your information. It's my understanding that when you originally submitted your request to the building department, it was rejected for 10 units and said that he would approve 2. And that's why you're appealing the variance to this committee. It's also my understanding that the 9 cabins that you're looking to create small homes with, you have the ability, I understand they're being taken down, but you are also saying that you're going to increase them by 25%. Which is a little deceiving in terms of what you were saying. You didn't indicate that they were going to be increased by 25%. You also never indicated that you were going to have an apartment in the lodge for an overseer who would be collecting HOA fees and taking care of the roads and so on and so forth. When this committee has the opportunity to visit the site, please take a look at the wetlands, the way it is designed in terms of the roadway and how all of this is going to change. We're dealing with 6.5 acres and they're talking about putting up 10 homes. Now, they already have $3 million invested just in purchasing this property. We know that it's going to cost a lot more money to build 10 units. Then if they're going to sell them as affordable housing, I don't understand an affordable price tag attached to them referring to this as an affordable housing unit. Also, what is to prohibit people from purchasing these tiny homes and then renting them as Airbnb, saying, oh, you've got a pool, you have a community center, and you would have 10 tiny homes that could become a real interesting property for entertainment and weekend residents. We have endured a lot on our road over the years with what's happened, and we would welcome something nice happening. But 10 homes on 6 acres, not to mention the impact on our wells and our septic and the noise and everything that could possibly occur if these become little Airbnbs is a tremendous concern to us. I don't know what this group considers affordable housing, but I don't see 10 tiny homes after the initial investment of $3 million, and then what's to come after that as anything affordable.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
In 1980, I was 1, so I don't know. What was the property used as?
In 1980, Michael Roth owned the property as the Punkhouse Lodge.
So it was lodging and a restaurant and
It was
bar?
basically a bar with a pool table. It was very, very quiet. There wasn't any nightlife. And then it became purchased by I believe the Palumbo family.
Combo.
Thank you.
Yeah, Combo.
And,
Carlos Combo.
But there was lodging, short-term
short-term
lodging in 1980.
without any issues.
And then there was the same amount of cabins?
I believe so. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure.
We
There
had
was some amounts.
septic issues in 1980,
Right.
in the 80s.
And I know that if you take a look at the lodge and go to the left, is a home where Homer used to live.
Mhm.
Homer?
Yes. He ran out of water.
Yeah.
My husband found him one day with his truck with all kinds of water bottles in the back that he was having to fill so he could have water to swim. So, we go back a long way in terms of water concerns and so on and so forth, not to mention noise. A lot of noise.
Lots of history.
And-
to that property.
Exactly. So it would be my understanding that if this ever did make it to the planning board, they would require what they required of Selena, that you have to tie into town water and septic.
Is Country Club Lane, is that a private road,
No.
a town road, a town road?
It starts off as Risley.
It starts
Right.
off as Risley Lane from,
Right.
I'm Fred Allen, live at 11 Risley Lane,
Okay,
right across from the elementary school. It starts off as Risley, and then right where the bar starts, it goes to Country Club, and then it ends
Right.
in Radigan.
That's Radigan.
Right.
right. I remember years ago going and it was pretty small little.
It's still,
It
it's
is
still,
very narrow.
it's still, it's just a lane, exactly.
Fred,
Which is
is it School
absorbed.
Bus Road? Is it,
Okay,
is
so-
Country Club Lane Risley Lane the school bus?
No.
No.
Do you have- hang on, guys, hang on. Hang on for a second, please.
Okay.
Do you have more for us?
I think I've covered basically everything. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Think issue of the affordability, just being frank with you, is not really a factor in
the consideration here, because this is not affordable housing
I
in the way
understand,
that we
and I agree
typically
with
would
you.
define it.
Right.
And there's no
Understood.
guarantee about what the sale price would be.
Right.
So
Agree.
I think it has to be judged on the other aspects of the proposal and,
Understood.
if you have more information about hooking up to the town sewer and
Would you like
water.
to hear?
Yes,
Yes, it is
yeah, either
feasible.
now or if you wanna provide it, but, I don't think the responsibilities should be on the zoning board to answer that question, it should be on you as the applicant. To
Yes.
explain to us what
We'll
is
say that-
possible with that.
I wouldn't say prohibitively, but it's extremely expensive. But it could easily benefit some of the other people in the neighborhoods.
Have you gotten?
But it's doable, if the town would do it.
They have to.
It's not the town,
They have to
we
pay
do
to
it,
connect.
the town,
Oh, you
the
pay
town
for
has said, yeah.
But have you
we'll
got
figure
some
it out.
sort of like investigated pricing on what it would take?
$1.5 for both.
And what property would you
Wait,
have to
wait,
go
wait,
through?
wait. You get a turn, please. Okay, so,
Not interested in price necessarily, just interested in feasibility.
Right.
The feasibility, yes, we can bring it in through our right of way and up the road. And there's a couple, but we have to go into the creek. And I think that we end up going down, the opposite side of the street of the elementary school. Down to close to the bridge.
So the prohibitive factor is the cost.
That's it. I mean, it would be ideal. I mean, sewage also. We do have a way to just pump the sewage, the effluent that is. After it's been through our septic tanks. That's a possibility, and even in the same trench, so. We can investigate it and look at it, and it could be a deal breaker for it. It's a lot of money.
okay,
Also, you indicated that you've spoken with many neighbors about this, and I know that my road, no one has been approached. We have not. I think had you spoken to us, you would have realized how opposed we are to this project.
Yes, and changing from commercial to residential.
Okay,
so
generally speaking,
Oh,
you're
wait.
supposed to talk to us.
I'm sorry.
No, yeah, but thank you.
Like
Thank
Judge
you.
Judy.
Thank you very much.
Okay, would you like to speak? Please tell us your name.
My name's Fred Allen. I
And
live on
you-
11 Rising Lane.
Okay,
I've been here for 35 years. My family's lived there for 75 years, and my family's lived in Woodstock for 110 years. You may know my nephew Donnie Allen,
I don't know.
I'm supervisor.
Good.
So, yeah, so I understand the neighbors with the water and the septic, and that's a big concern, but for me, and my neighbor Terry Austin back there that live on Rising Lane, it's the traffic, the noise, and 10 homes on a 6-acre lot. Are you kidding me? Can you imagine all the people going in there and the cars and where they're gonna park? And the construction nonstop, and then he talks about hooking up to the town sewer, where are you going through? Our property to hook up to the sewer and stuff? Or there's gonna, those are right through the Woodstock school property, It's the noise and the amount on such a tiny little lot. I can see, a house going in there, or possibly even 2. But 10, that's insane. We've had so much to endure with over the years with the noise and the police and the garbage and the complaints. Sleepless nights, up all night, then you gotta go to work in the morning, night after night, then the garbage trucks come in. And then they have the carpenters, the cleaners, the pool cleaners, the whatever you got going on. It's just way too much, That's my biggest concern, and it's just Risley Lane. And to have 10 homes on that little lot is unheard of, and like I say, the lodge, when that was there, it was just a living hell for the neighborhood. So we've actually had a little reprieve the last 5 years when it's been shut down. We can actually get a little bit of sleep. So that's my biggest concern, is the amount of traffic and volume and noise for the neighborhood.
Thank you.
Okay.
Does anybody else want to speak to this?
Well, Fred was brave enough to do it. Thank you.
We're not that scary.
I'm Terry Austin, 15 Horizon Lane. I'm next door to Fred, one lot closer to the driveway of the lodge.
We're on the site map.
And I bought my house when it was being built, when you were 7 years old. And I didn't see you at the elementary school, so I don't know, did you graduate? I was rooting for the Bears in Chicago. Anyway, yeah, we've endured this craziness ever since, well, you know, when I bought my property in '87. The lodge was always closed in the winter. I was told by the real estate people that it was an old unused hunting lodge.
Huh.
And that it was just closed, and so I was a little surprised when there was some activity there in the spring. And I was in this room in a town board meeting for Salinas when they wanted to do, well, when they came in to do their dog and bone show. And they were told in no uncertain terms that they had, the town had investigated the septic situation there. Everything was antiquated, broken, couldn't be salvaged. And they were told that they had to hook up to the town septic or the sewer, which stops at the elementary school. And they were to immediately put up a $500,000 bond in order to show that they were intending to do that. And I don't know if that killed their enthusiasm for the project. COVID came in right after that, and we've had 5 years of peace and quiet. Now when I backed on my driveway tonight to come here, I had 3 doe and 1 baby standing in my front lawn. They live, I don't know, if it's over in Millstream, they occupy the woods behind the school. They cross Risley Lane, come through my property. I have a wooded area behind. They go to Robin and Peters. There's a reason why you don't see deer crossing the main street of Woodstock. It's traffic. If we have that kind of traffic there, that's going to disrupt wildlife in the area. Not to mention, we're going to have construction vehicles. You know, it's going to be beep, 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 everybody backing up over the lodge. I've always worked at home. I drew comic books for Marvel Comics, and I don't now. And then now I just draw for fun. But I was there day and night, and so I got the noise in the daytime, the noise in the nighttime. I went to the doctor at one point thinking that I was very sick. It just turned out it was lack of sleep because from the noise at the lodge. So anyway, so yeah, we're all very concerned about what's going to happen there. And I don't think we would object to a reasonable amount of houses, homes there. But 10 really seems kind of excessive. We were kind of hoping that you were asking for 10, hoping to get 5. You know?
Let's make a deal.
You know, but you know, who knows? But that's up to you folks,
Right.
obviously. So thank you.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure, please.
Just for you and the other neighbors that spoke, the applicant had during the presentation said that there was people living there that shouldn't be, and things were in disrepair. Is any of that viewed as a problem for you as neighbors now, as the way the property's been the last 5 years?
It was news to me. I wasn't even aware of it.
Joseph, I know Joseph has seen the results of people living there and the animals taken over the hours, because we were forced to put up a fence along 200 feet when
Yeah, Michael Stern.
started. And they were taking their trucks and driving around this property, that is the other side of their property.
Okay.
They actually built a road on our property. They built a stone gravel, or, an item 4 road. On our property, about 25 or 30 feet beyond. The border.
So ideally. If the property could be improved, not with this density, that would be the most preferable option.
As long as there were not septic systems anywhere.
Issues, right, and the density, yeah.
Yeah, density is too much. I only referred to the previous owner because after that happened, Joseph used to go up and see what was going on, so he would let the police know that it looked like there were people living in the cottages, or
Right.
you come back and say, it looks like there are raccoons and skunks in the building.
And the doors were open until Catherine took care of it.
And not to mention the light pollution when the bar was running.
Yeah,
Lights
well, I'm
and stuff.
sure, yes.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
You good? Anybody else have any question? Somebody else from the public who wants to speak for this?
I'm sorry.
Did you want to speak to, did anybody else who want to speak to this case?
No, okay.
Okay,
Can I ask a question?
sure.
If this was approved for 2 homes, would that still require an HOA? Would it also require somebody having the lodge renovated into an apartment to oversee the property?
You're asking me that question. It's zoned R3, so there can be 2 homes on that property. They could subdivide it and they could have 2 homes. What happens with the existing buildings? There's a lot of questions for
So
us
one
on
of the
this.
homes could take possession of the pool, and the other home wouldn't, there'd be no need for an HOA.
I
or
have
a
not,
resident
I
overseer.
don't have answers for you on any of that, and this is one of the reasons why it'd be really good for us to all go see what's there and try to envision what it could be, should be, and we have a lot of questions, and we are at this point just gathering information. So thank you all for sharing all this.
One more.
Oh, okay, so you want to go again, Dr. Appel?
Well, I just
Remember me?
Yes, of course I do, oh my gosh.
Well, I've been here for 55 years.
This is Marcia Albert. Tell us where you live, please.
I live on the side road, so I live on the what they call Risley Lane Extension. It's up that little side road where there's houses, so I'm not right on top of the lodge, but I'm very close, so it's pretty much what Fred and Terry said. I can't even imagine all the people and all the noise and everything going on there with that amount of housing being added. So, so they pretty much have said that, but I mean, I'm there well over 50 years. And it's terrifying to me, actually, to tell you the truth. It's really terrifying to me. It's great to see you again. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
I would just like
Okay,
to say
yes,
that.
please say again your name for the.
Joseph Bell, and Patty and I spoke earlier, and I just want to say that I feel that it's really disingenuous to attach an affordable housing identity to this project, and I think it's disingenuous and it's offensive.
Yeah.
It's offensive.
Yeah.
Right,
And I.
we understand, it's
Anyway,
okay, we
I
understand.
want to
Yeah,
emphasize.
thank you. No, we understand. We know, we understand. We've been here before. Okay, anyone else? We good? Board have any more questions?
This is what they teach young lawyers. Like the lawyers who work in my office is when you won the argument. You won. The affordability.
I also wanted to.
Okay, this is the last one, because we have other things to
I
do
just want to
today.
say, like,
Please.
I live on Rising Lane, I just found out about this a week ago.
Well,
So I'm unprepared to speak and.
right.
And,
So just generally, the way the process works is that the contiguous neighbors receive a legal notice in the mail of the public hearing. If you're not a contiguous neighbor, unless you're reading the legal notices in the paper or you're checking the websites, you probably wouldn't know, so some of your neighbors maybe told you.
Right.
But that's just the way the law is set up, is we have to inform the contiguous neighbors. So, I'm sorry that, but I'm glad you found out about it.
Like I said,
What-
the
Right.
houses on the road that it affects.
Sure, it affects a lot
You
of
know,
people.
then you have houses on the backside, you
Right.
know, that are maybe adjacent to the property that got notified. but
Right,
everybody else.
we understand.
Yeah.
So what's gonna happen now is that, I'm gonna recess this public hearing, so I'm moving to recess case 2506. Second, please. All in favor? So what that means is that at some point, we will reopen the public hearing, you will be notified again. And if in the meantime, if you would like, you can always send emails, letters. Michelle will, she circulates it to all of us. So the discussion is not over, just so you know, okay? And that's for you too, yes, obviously. Do you have any questions for us?
No, I just wanted to address one thing. is
Sure.
that we are fully aware that the Pine Fest was a mess. I mean,
Yes,
it was
yes.
Some people jokingly said it was.
Yeah, we did recess it, I'm sorry.
Yeah, just reopen.
Okay.
Yeah.
We didn't give them a chance.
I'm reopening it so that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we know that
Vote.
Aye.
Yes.
that it was noisy at night, a lot
Yeah,
of traffic.
sure.
Selena people were a nightmare.
Oh.
They broke every rule there is, and it was referred to that somebody purchased it for that amount of money, or our client got stuck holding the bag.
Yes.
And we have this property that has these 10 structures on it,
Right,
and we thought that the best, most efficient thing was just to rebuild those.
yes,
They're the perfect space, there's a, you know, the parking is such, I mean, to turn it into a single or double housing
Right.
would be problematic, you know, to
Yes.
say the least.
gotcha. Okay, well, as I said, we're recessing it, so you have another opportunity to make your argument, okay?
Well,
Um,
can I just make one more point?
Sure.
Is that the Department of Health does not allow a non-functioning septic system. You know, and everything we do is gonna have to,
gonna
well
have to comply,
scrutinized.
right, gotcha, yeah, okay. All right, I'm gonna recess, CPA case
Thank you.
506 again.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Thank you, everyone.
Guys.
Thank you all for coming.
Well, the recess, by the way, is to the call of the chair, so we will notify you when we are going to reopen it.
Thank you.
And you have all our information for when you want to come and visit.
Yes, we do, and I would encourage everybody to please do that, if we can go and pay.
to see you, sweetheart.
Keep in touch to you.
We're both available.
Okay, thank you. Jeff, I know you're on the application, are you on the application? Does Michelle have it? Okay, you could send that to Michelle and we can, that would be great. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
I'm happy to talk to neighbors too.
Yes, well, that's up to you, that's between you and them.
Thank you.
Okay, so.
I'm also deputy.
All right. Well, Michelle's on.
We gotta roll.
I know.
How long do you think?
We're gonna call you in a minute. Just give me a minute. We have to wait for her. Actually, I'm just gonna go ahead and call it. Let's call it. Okay, move to open ZBA case 2506, public hearing, application of Howard Rifkin Realty 257 LLC is represented by Peter Jacobson of 257 Tinker Street, Woodstock, New York, 12498, for property located at 257 Tinker Street, Woodstock, New York, 12498. A 0.69 acre parcel is located within an R3 zoning district for a variance from the zoning law of the town of Woodstock. Excuse me, guys, if you don't.
Can you go outside, please?
Article 9, non-conforming uses in non-complying buildings, section 260-94A 1(2), and section B 1(2), in order to demolish an existing commercial structure and construct a larger commercial structure at a different location on the same lot. So please tell us who you are.
Okay, I'm Peter Jacobson.
Thank
I
you.
own Mountain Pools, the pool business, which is located at 257 Tinker Street. I bought the business from Howard
Yes.
Rifkin in December of 21. So this is my 4th season as the owner. Howard, I did not buy the real estate.
Right.
Howard continues to own the real estate, which is under 257 Tinker Realty. Howard wants to sell me the business, the real estate,
Right.
which I'm naturally have an interest in. but I only want to make the purchase if I know I can expand the square footage of the shop. The shop is very small, it's like 1,150, I call it the scroll palace, it's very small. And so if I'm gonna buy it, I wanna know that the business can grow over time and that I can build a bigger structure. And so that's, to build a bigger structure violates the existing zoning code. Howard actually had to get a variance maybe in the 80s to expand the structure to its current size. So that's why I'm here today. I want to know if I buy the property, that I'd be able to build something bigger.
So, okay, so what did you say it was? The original square footage, you said 1,100?
Right now, it's like 1,150.
And what do you want it to be?
4,800, which is 2 stories. It's 2,400 like on the ground, 40 by 60, and then 2 stories makes it 48.
So basically, do you understand what the reason was that he was not allowed to expand it? Do you understand all the law behind all of this?
I mean, my understanding, or maybe you can tell me.
I mean, if you understand, it's a non-conforming use, which means that if that were an empty piece of property now, a business could not go there.
Right.
So, so generally with those, you're allowed to expand 25%. And my understanding is that has already happened on that lot.
Yes.
So you're asking for an exception to the non-conforming use regulations. And can you just explain this a little bit?
Sure.
Because what we got a scan of this, and because it's, on graph paper, and it was really hard to see. So can you just walk us through it?
Yeah, sure. I didn't realize how many. I thought maybe there was only 3 of you, so I don't have
Oh,
one. But
you guys-
I can do this. I can do this upside down. So basically, there's 2 drawings. One is of the current situation, which is the one with the much smaller shop, which is over here. And then there's
This is Tinker Street. Right?
Yep. So you have Tinker Street, and then you have Dixon, it's on the corner, and then you have what I've drawn as the proposal, which is this one over here. So basically, there's a number of things happening. The most important one is that the shop is being enlarged and made 2 stories. The shop is also being moved further from Tinker Street to allow more parking in front. Another change, as you can see with the existing situation, is that the fence line is very far off the property boundaries. So I plan to move the fence line like 10 feet off the property boundaries. That kind of,
Excuse me, explain that. You're saying it's off, meaning closer to your property or closer to the neighbor property?
So this dotted line represents the fence, and so today there's maybe each one of these squares is 25 square feet. Each segment is 5 foot. This is drawn to scale. So like going the boundary that's like in the back, currently there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it's the fence line is 40 feet off, 45 feet off the property boundary, whereas in the future, I'm proposing that the fence line be 10 feet off the property boundary.
Right.
And so all of this enables a larger shop. It also enables the traffic to be rerouted. So currently today, anyone that's using the front parking area has to come in and out on Tinker Street through a pretty awkward setup. And so what I'm proposing in the future is that there's unidirectional traffic and no one's exiting back onto busy Tinker Street. We're using the curb cut on Dixon for both kind of the back area and the front. Part of what I'm using this extra land for is for more parking. So today there is parking that happens on the shoulder of both sides of Dixon. And by expanding the parking area, I can pull cars off the street into the parking lot. So that's one of the ancillary community benefits.
Theoretically, you could, I'm just
Sure.
be devil's advocate.
Yeah, go ahead.
Theoretically, if you move that fence back, you could create more parking in here without getting a variance. correct?
That's absolutely true. Yeah, I mean, the core of the variance is all about having a shop that allows the business to grow. Like I have, since I bought the business in December 21, I've been continually improving and trying to optimize the space. So like in 22, there used to be this shed that was in the back area. I got a permit and tore that down, and that created more parking for the business. In 23 and 24, I took trees down in this area to create more parking. This winter, I did a renovation that I had to get a permit for to create more workstations inside. But like my ability to continue to optimize what I have is kind of maxed out. And so for instance, if I don't even have a desk to work at in the shop because the shop is so small. Like there is one bathroom in that shop. Like there should be more than one bathroom in that shop. The walls are not insulated in the shop. I want to have a building that's a 4-season building where I don't have to take chemicals out and bring it to, you know, my apartment, or where the office staff is, you know, shivering in April and November. And so, but if I'm going to do any of these improvements, I don't want to do it to this tiny little structure. Like if I can't do this, and this isn't like, I'm not trying to be threatening or anything. It's just, the reality is I'll have to go somewhere else. I'm not going to buy this property and do investments that aren't going to allow growth, and are going to continue what I would call like a 1970s quality of environment for the employees. Like there's no kitchen area, there's no wash up area, it's really not a great place to work.
Where's the library in relationship here? Just
So it's like over here.
Have any questions?
The second floor would be part of the business too.
Yeah, so it wouldn't be a residence or anything like that. It'd be like ground floor would be where equipment is stored and where desks are, and the top floor would be like conference rooms and more desks.
Is there a second floor now?
No, it's just one story.
And the parking, is it more focused for staff or for customers, or?
Good question. It's for staff. Actually, one of the changes that I made this year, it used to be, there used to be 4 parts of the business. There's construction where we build pools, there's service where we fix pools, and there's maintenance where we go and do weekly cleaning, vacuuming, chemical dosing, and then retail. Retail was like 1% of the business by revenue, and it was effectively a distraction. So I actually closed the shop to retail this season. So all of this is geared towards the construction, maintenance, and service forces, not people coming in and out to buy pool chemicals.
And the storage unit here, what's that used for? This isn't the current structure, right?
So yeah, this is the future, I think. Oh no, this is current. This is, sorry, I had it the other way. So the storage is not a structure, it's just kind of like outdoor storage, open air storage. So there's fencing, there's what else is over there? Lumber.
It's not a building.
Yeah, there's no building. Yeah.
And how many employees do you have?
So peak employment in 22, because it's seasonal, was 34. Peak employment last year was 24. So it varies year to year, but that's kind of a sense of the scale, which is why the parking is important.
Sorry, we tried to go there when we were
Like you see the
getting
weeds,
at how
yeah,
that parking lot is really hard.
Anybody have
No.
more questions? Okay, so what has to happen with this is because it's on State Route 212, we are required to send it to the Ulster County Planning Board for review.
Okay.
And so you will be on their June meeting. I guess this was the first Wednesday in June.
Correct.
And that's because it abuts 212 or
Yeah,
because of the
because it's on
curb cut
212.
move?
Because it
No.
affects 212.
Okay.
212, right? So they have to review it and then they send us their recommendations.
Okay.
So, so what we'll do is we'll recess the public hearing until we hear from them, because we
Okay.
can't really do anything until we do.
Okay.
If nobody has any other questions?
Wait.
Wait, oh, contiguous neighbors? Do we really have to do that even though they're not here? Yes, go
On the
ahead,
record,
please.
Jeffrey and Barbara Canavy, 435 Cathmere Road in Hubbardton, Pennsylvania. The Woodstock Fire District at PO Box 43 in Bearsville. Lowell Miller at PO Box 703 in Bearsville. Twisted Gypsy LLC, 228 Warren Street in Brooklyn. And the Public Library, 10 Dixon Avenue, Woodstock. And we received no communications.
Okay. Okay, move to recess ZBA case 2507. Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we'll be in touch.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking us through.
Yep, no problem.
He retired.
All right, good night, everyone.
Good day.
Have a good night.
Oh, and actually, you're all welcome to walk
Come by.
around the property
Yes.
whenever you feel
Thank
like
you,
it. Yeah.
yes, good, drive by it all the time. Okay, good. All right, so updates, I'm gonna open ZBA case 2501. Application of Ian Vinci, that's the, IPA property on Route 212, where they would like to put up a 5,000 square foot storage building. That went to the Ulster County Planning Board, last night's meeting. We haven't heard yet from them. Their decision would impact us, and they can send us a number of things. They can say no county impact, they can say they think it's a bad idea, in which case we would need a super majority. We need 4 votes if we decided to approve it. And they can also say they like it, and I guess if we decided to deny it, we'd also need 4 votes, right? But I wanted to open it because I thought it would be good for us to have a conversation about it. And just see where people stand. We have to do these things publicly now, and just see, you know, I had asked if people go by and take a look. Just to see what, you know, we had the neighbors speak about the impact to them, we had him speak about what his, what he wanted to do. And just to try to get a feeling from the board, what your impressions are. So does anybody want to jump in?
I feel it'd be overbearing to the neighbors. You know, I live on that road. It's easy for me to go by
Right,
and walk around.
right.
Yeah, I read the minutes. I wasn't here at that meeting and I did drive by.
Reading that.
And when I did drive by, it did feel substantial to me, just from size alone.
Right.
Like I said, I feel like this light industrial overlay district's coming back to bite us, and then you know what, because. We just saw another one come through, and we're gonna push these jobs out because the value of the property is going to be more. Than it's worth to. Damage your business and not let it scale, so. I think we have to acknowledge the fact that if we restrict this light industrial overlay district. By keeping businesses from scaling, then they're gonna have to make the decision to move to somewhere where there's more affordable. Property that is gonna be bigger for them to increase their business. He doesn't own the property, but the property is valuable, any property on Tinker Street and 212 between Bearsville and town has, you know. Pretty juicy place to be, so. I think that, you know, we do have to consider the fact that these, you know, we talked about affordable housing, we talked about jobs in this area, and we talked about. Creating and keeping jobs in this area, but we're also. Going to have to make decisions that could potentially decrease the amount of jobs in this town. And these are not retail, these are not, service industry or hospitality industry jobs, these are real jobs. I know people who work them, full-time jobs, and they own houses in this town, and they live in this town, they have kids in this town, so. It's a tough decision, and, you know, I see the side of the fence that we don't want increased industrial activity in a primarily residential area. I get that, but at the same time, I think we would be certainly pushing them, these businesses, in the direction of leaving Woodstock. Because it would be financially feasible for them to do that.
It is definitely one of the things we need to weigh, for sure. Do you have any thoughts on this, Jim?
No, I mean, I think Martin makes some good points, but, I think we have to balance those points against the size and scale of what's being proposed, and, I guess I feel this may be on the other side of that scale.
Right. So for me, I think I mentioned this before, I don't know who was at that meeting, that I was on the planning board when we established that special light industrial district. And in order to get that, and this was a local person who lived in town for a long time, in order to get that, she had to purchase more land because she had a minimum of 5 acres. And so she purchased that big field next door. And she put an easement on it that it couldn't be built on. So what it had to be remain an open field. So what that did essentially was it limited what the future development on that property could be. And I have the minutes here from that meeting. I have to get the rest of them, and I'll put them in the record when I get the whole thing. Right now, it just says March 6, 1997, and I don't have, there's no context except if you happen to know who was on the planning board back then. But, there was a little bit of I would say an assurance that whatever was added on there would be minimal. And so that concerns me because some of the residents actually were here at that time and, and had spoken to the owner. The other thing about it is that it is, we give substantial variances, when it's a shed or in addition to a house, but this is a 5,000 square foot building that's asking for variances on two sides of the property that are, both around 75–80% of what reduced setback, and that's pretty substantial. So, we have a lot to think about, but we're gonna need to kind of weigh it, and at our next meeting, we'll know, or before then, Michelle can send it to us, what the county planning board said. So anyway, that's my take on it. It's good to have everybody else's, and we have a little time to think about it, but I think we probably are gonna need to make a decision on this one relatively soon. So,
But we have to have a second public hearing.
we have to reopen the public hearing, correct? And I suppose we can't really make a decision until after we have that.
And one more thing about this.
Sure.
The size of the actual building is large, but the impact it has is not, because it's a prefab, it's storage, it's not going to increase noise, I don't think, it's not gonna increase activity that's already happening. So we're really, to me, protecting somebody's business. In a way. And damaging somebody's business, and if that business leaves, what happens to that property?
Right.
I prefer not to see empty commercial spaces along Tinker Street in the Bearsville. We already have one, and potentially we could have 2 more.
I've been here for a while, and there was a big debate about that stretch in Bearsville and what it was going to become. And there was and this is not specific to these cases at all, but there was real resistance to letting the commercial area extend into Bearsville.
Yeah, I would have resisted it, but
Yeah,
we're
but I'm
not
just
there.
saying, well, yeah, but I mean that, this was definitely granted as a special light industrial district, so it exists. The other case is another story, which we can discuss at another time, but yeah, all right. So we'll be waiting to hear from the Ulster County Planning Board, and then we'll have to reopen the public hearing, which I assume will be at our next meeting, probably. We can't, can we? We don't have
No,
time.
there's no time. I would have to put the public notice in tomorrow, the legal notice in on Monday.
We might hear from the planning, I mean, we could hear from them, but probably not. I don't think they're in a big hurry no, they're not gonna be in a big hurry.
We were like the last one on their talk.
I know, I would.
There were like 94 other cases and we were
W-
literally the last.
The W's.
Yeah.
Okay, so move to close 2501.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
ZBA case 25, move to open ZBA case, I'm starting to lose it, 2502, for purposes of discussion. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, this is the property up on Mink Hollow Road. I think you were here for it and Greg was here. And so what they wanted, so basically they came to us and this property has existed since the 1970s as a little bit more than a 5-acre parcel. And there's 2 houses on it. One of them The larger of them was replaced a little cottage and has got a slightly, it's not that big, I think it's only 1,100 square feet. And the other building has existed there too. So this is not suddenly somebody's finding out about this, but what we were told is that the property is jointly owned by two relatives who are feuding. And they would like to subdivide the property so that they don't have to interact anymore. You know, this would be setting a very huge precedent if we were to allow two undersized lots, not creating, you know, if it were 9 acres and one of them was 4 acres and one of them was 5 acres, you could maybe make the argument, but creating two undersized lots would be a big step for us. There was another case we had a couple of years ago where somebody wanted to do something similar, might have had a slightly better argument in that they own property on both sides of the road and the heirs wanted to divide it up.
They
And
were also fighting. Yeah.
yeah, and we denied it. We said we couldn't set that precedent. So that's, you know, that's kind of how I'm seeing it. I wanted, again, we need to have a discussion about this before anybody writes up a decision. So just waiting to hear what other people think about it.
I don't see it qualifying as one of the hardships. So.
Right.
Which you see
Agreed.
at the meeting.
Agreed.
Yeah.
We're all in agreement on that one? Okay, so we probably will vote on that at our next meeting. The surveyor had asked us if we would wait before we made a decision. He would try to submit something else that would be more persuasive, and we never heard from him, and it's been already 6 weeks, so I think we can move on with that one. Okay, well, we're actually gonna vote on one now.
Wait, close.
Thank you, Michelle. Move to close. CBA case 2502. It's a good thing you guys are all here. Second, all in favor? Okay. All right, we are going to have to open case, ZBA case 2504, application of Jamie Cricker and Michael Corn. Second, please.
Second.
Thank you. I'm a little tired. Okay, that was a lot before. All right, I'm looking for the resolution. Based upon the standards for consideration of area variances and conditional upon compliance with stated representations, area variances under the zoning law of the town of Woodstock, Article 4, area and bulk regulations, modification of required yards, section 260-26B 2B for 22-foot infringement into a 25-foot side yard setback in order to construct an addition to a primary dwelling is hereby granted with reduction subject to all requirements of the zoning law of the town of Woodstock, the New York State real property law, and all other applicable laws, codes, and regulations. This is an explanation of the reduction. At the board's request, the applicant conducted an official survey that resulted in a more precise property boundary calculation and slight reduction of the necessary setback relief than was originally requested. So discussion about this was, you know, this board is compelled to grant the minimum amount of a variance. So that's why I wrote in here to reduce it to what it actually needs to be. Does anybody have anything to say about this case? I know you were here and you were here. You guys, you know. So this is just an addition to the back of somebody's property, and the applicant owns the property next door, which is somewhat of a mitigating circumstance because it is so close to the property line that they themselves are the most affected contiguous neighbor. So the vote was announced as follows. Judith Solero, aye. Joseph Bellick.
Aye.
Behind here, Michael Castiglione, absent. Martin Bills.
Aye.
Greg Goodberg.
Aye.
And Stephen Tom.
Aye.
Okay, the resolution is adopted. 4 in favor, 0 opposed, 1 absent. I'll talk to you about that in a minute, and no one's not abstaining. Okay, so the resolution carries. And before I close the case, I guess I should close the case and then we'll discuss it. So I move to close 2506. Second, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You know, this is a question we need to look into because it seems to me once we vote on a case, it's closed, right? We have to close it, the case, even though we voted on it. Do you think we do?
I would close it.
Okay, all right. So with Stephen, the law is that an alternate is only allowed to vote if there is no quorum. So what I'm always gonna do is I'm gonna ask you, and Michelle will make a note that whatever, however your vote went, because I think your being here is important and we need to know what you think. But legally, your vote just, I'm sorry, you do matter, which is why we ask, it's why we ask you.
But yes, the news, it says actually, alternate Stephen Tubb was in agreement with the vote passing the resolution.
Right.
Whether or not you do agree or you don't agree, but we'll
We'll
a
put it
little
in
blurb
there. We had a conversation about this and the best way to handle this because legally, that's what we have to do.
Excellent.
Okay, I know you're losing it here, Jen. One last thing. Okay.
In every case, Jude.
We have to keep that down. You know, sorry, Joe. We have to talk about them. We can't just come out with a decision and everybody's like, well, how did that happen? We have to talk about our reasoning and we have to talk about where people stand. And I'm sorry because it's very uncomfortable, I know, for people, and this board has never really operated that way since I got on it in whatever that was, 2017 or whatever it was. And I came on the board and I said, wait a minute, you guys don't discuss cases, and it hasn't changed until we got sued. So, okay. I move to request yes, what?
Are you opening 2505?
Am I opening what?
2505? There's no more.
Oh, gosh.
I'm sorry.
Every case, Joe.
That's what I said, 2505.
I move to open case 2505. Second, please, for the purposes of discussion.
Greg, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, this is the application on 70 Tinker Street where he would like to get a side yard setback variance in order to park his car next to the house. The latest information I have, I was supposed to go there with Butch and he had a training and it wasn't able to come, and so we may be going to reschedule it, but I'm not entirely sure it's necessary. Depends on how we discuss this. So the latest information I have is that they are required to put these bollards next to the staircase and on that side of the house and the utilities, which is going to make it even narrower for the car. When I went there, what it looked like to me was he was going to have to, it wasn't like I was just going to back into this thing and then pull out. You would have to back in, pull out, back in, and then pull out. So it's basically 3 or 4 maneuvers at least to get in and out of there. So that was one issue because it's illegal to back into State Route 212. And I don't know that we want to give somebody a variance that's going to allow them to do something that's illegal. Now, even though the current owner says he's not going to do that, as I said to him, the variance is for the property, not for him. The other question is, you know, the CCD did express concerns that car, even though it's a side yard variance, is essentially from a visual perspective in the front yard. So, so just want to see how the board is feeling about this one, you know. So what do you guys think?
Got stuck behind someone on 212 yesterday, backing out into the street from a different property.
Yeah, well, the police.
Yeah, the police do it.
If someone has to do a few maneuvers, I'm like torn, like they could do it,
Yeah.
right? So like, are we approving something that can be done? Yeah, maybe a little hard or maybe practically
Yeah.
not gonna happen, but
Is it like a 5-point turn or something?
I don't know, I drive by all the time, but like, I have a big car, I wouldn't be able to do that.
I think it would cause a lot of traffic, issues when it's busy, you know, it's narrow, that street's narrow, the sidewalk's narrow, everything's narrow.
Yeah.
Visually speaking, I think cars and essentially the front yard of the commercial district, the main commercial area of 212 is not, you know, I mean, I can't believe the CCD doesn't have more to say about that. There's so much to say about everything else, it doesn't matter.
Well, it's technically not a building, so it doesn't refer to them, you know.
I think visually speaking, like cars parked next to those types of commercial buildings doesn't make sense.
Right.
There's no way to put a parking spot in the back.
No, because he's got that other building back there, and if you're facing the big structure, there's a little building in the back. And I think
I just didn't know what was directly behind the
Yeah.
main building.
Yeah. There's gonna be a patio back there, but I think he also originally had asked for 2 cars. And the DOT said, no way, but it's come to us, in it's a kind of a roundabout way, but, when we grant a variance, we're saying, yeah, you can do that, and we have to really consider whether or not we think that's a good idea, so, what do you think?
I was impressed with his, level of attention to the landscaping.
Yes.
Obviously, somebody who cared.
Yeah.
Seemed to care quite a bit about the property and the aesthetics of it, but, I think potential risks of, not just the traffic, but someone getting hurt, in that area is not, good or sustainable.
Okay.
Is this a full-time residence?
He, his plan is to live on the 2nd story. I don't know if he's here
So
full
would
time.
he be able to, a lot of commercial projects are required to purchase a parking spot.
Yeah.
Would he qualify to say purchase a parking spot and park at the lower Como lot? As opposed to having something, right there.
Well, what he made very clear is that would be a residential parking spot, not a
Yeah, that
commercial
was
parking
right.
spot.
Yeah.
So he.
Yeah, I understand,
Yeah.
but this is like a compromise to have a car close, I can understand you wanting to have your park your car
Right.
where you live, so. Or he
You
could
know-
just park there overnight anyways, I believe, so maybe. Purchase it.
Right, I don't know what, that would have been a planning board issue, whether or not he would be required to purchase parking. I don't know. He's gonna have 3 businesses there. But I think there might have been 3 businesses there before, so I don't know how that works with the planning board. I just want to remind everybody, we already did give this property 2 variances. We gave them a front yard variance and a side yard variance, so we already have, given them some room to expand there, but I'm getting the sense that nobody's really crazy about this. I will say that I also, I've been sort of driving down, it's funny, I've lived here so long, and sometimes you drive down Tinker Street and you've got your blinders on, but there really are no cars right next to businesses kind of in the front where the car becomes a feature of the streetscape, so this would be an unusual thing, so, all right, okay, I'm gonna close ZBA case 2505.
Come on, Joe, you got this one.
Second.
Awesome.
All in favor?
Okay.
Okay, lastly, thank you for
Great.
vastly. This has to do with, so I would like to move, and I'm gonna do them separately, I guess. To establish escrow for ZBA case 2501, which is the IPA case. We got an estimate from our attorney of essentially $500, and I would like us to establish escrow so that we can get some consultation with an attorney.
Second.
All in favor? Okay.
Deal, right, Joe?
$500.
Well, that one, I basically.
Those lawyers, man.
Just so you know, that one I tried to keep it minimal. I think that, the best thing in that case is that they review the decision. They're not gonna write the decision for us, it'll be written by us. And it will be reviewed just to make sure that we don't have any weaknesses. I'd like to also establish escrow for ZBA case 2506, which is 6, which are the people that just came before us, and that one is in the amount of $2,000 because it is a very complex case. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So both of those cases are recessed right now. So the way this works generally is until we get a check, we don't move forward. Both of them were also waiting for the Ulster County Planning Board. The IPA one, we should have that in a week or so. The other one won't be until June. So
No,
that one's
Selena
gonna.
isn't going to.
Oh, it's not?
Mhm.
Okay, well, we
Because
recessed
it's
it. anyway.
residential.
Former commercial property residential. Okay, I take that back.
Yeah.
But we did recess it. And it won't move forward until we get, and I do feel like that one, we definitely need to consult with an attorney. There's a lot of questions. And I didn't have the answers. I don't know if anybody else does, but I sure don't. Okay, move to close.
Adjourn.
Adjourn.
Second.
Aye.
Great job.